Hi everybody, welcome to episode 4 of the SmartB Sports Update podcast. I'm going to get it flowing. I think by 12th episode, it's just going to flow out. We've got a bit of an upgrade in our backdrop. You can see SmartB, your smart bet with all things sports. Visit smartb.com.au now. And how are you, Dan?
Good, thanks, John. Yourself, mate?
I'm fantastic, man. Rugby league is the gift that keeps on giving. I say it every single time. Nothing's happened in the AFL because they're all asleep. But man, the NRL in the past 2 days has given us heaps to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also I've got my Rafa Nadal t-shirt on in the spirit of the US Open. I know he's not playing, but we'll come to that a bit later, John.
That's good. He's there in spirit.
He's there in spirit.
And we all support him. He's our favourite since Federer's retired. So let's look, before we get into the NRL teams and games, let's cover off all the craziness. So the judiciary was last night.
Yes. So Corey Horsburgh guilty of a shoulder charge at the judiciary last night. John, 4-game ban for him.
They need to make the grand final now for him.
That's right. That's right.
He's out until next year, in other words.
Yeah. So, and Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, John, guilty of that grade 2 dangerous contact charge. He had sought a downgrade on that charge. So that means a 4-game ban for that, plus 3 with the early plea on the grade 1 striking charge. So a 7-game ban in total for him as well.
Yeah, I've been reading in the news that the Roosters are, as we talked about it on Monday, the Roosters are super upset with him, and now there is some discussions amongst the staff and everything like that, allegedly, about what they're going to do with him next year, because that's this week. Nobody actually expects the Roosters to do well in the finals. I'll probably get bundled out first week, so that's 2 weeks this year, and then the first 5 rounds of next year is
it's a quarter of the season, John,
and he's actually on quite big pay. First of all, he's meant to be a forward leader, and so there is some big discussions to be had about GWH in the off season.
Yeah, well, they're a ruthless club, John. They don't muck around. Just ask Kyle Flanagan. If they're unhappy with you, they let you go. They don't muck around.
Jake Friend had to go spend a year in a sandwich shop. So I think
and that's for players who didn't get themselves suspended for 7 weeks. So I'd hate to imagine what they're going to be doing with Jared Waerea-Hargreaves in light of this, John.
And it is the most important time. We'll get to Friday night, which is the Rabbitohs and Roosters. Mm-hmm. It's the most pivotal time of the season, most important game of the season, and 18 minutes before the end of. Was it 18 minutes before the end of a game when they were 18 points up? He goes ahead and gets himself 7 weeks suspension.
Yeah, it's not smart. Certainly not smart, John.
And then there was that was last night, and then we had the Ricky Stuart situation continues.
The gift that keeps giving, John.
So Fox Sports has apologised. Steve Crawley spoke to Ricky this morning and apologised to him. That was for invading Ricky Stuart's personal space. I'm really curious to know how exactly close the cameraman was and how big is Ricky's personal space. Because he seemed pretty far away to me.
Full disclosure, John, I do a bit of work for Fox Sports News, so there's only so much I can say on this, but I just think it's absurd that Fox Sports feel as though they are the ones who have to apologise to Ricky. He decides to go down and watch the game on the sideline. He doesn't have to. He can sit up in the coach's box like everybody else. He chooses to go down there. Well, guess what, Ricky? As I said on Monday, TV stations pay $2 billion for the TV rights. That means they're going to have cameras on the sideline. If you go down to the sideline and look animated, well, TV cameras are going to focus on you.
I don't think I've ever seen Craig Bellamy yell at a cameraman, and there's the Bellamy watch is one of the greatest things in rugby league.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't like them invading your space, well, go and sit up in the coach's box. The coaches and the NRL, they can't have their cake and eat it too. If you're taking $2 billion off the TV networks, with that comes a level of access, and that access is we want to look at coaches at high pressure moments during the game.
And, you're at everyone in the stadium. The agreement you make when you enter the stadium is that you may be on TV.
Yeah, and that even goes for the fans in the crowd, and they pay to get in. Ricky gets paid huge money to be a coach. It's part of the job, John.
So we'll see what happens this week. Actually, we did say on Monday we'd talk about Ricky Stuart and his stats this week, but I think it's better if we see what happens this week.
Yeah, I think with that...
They could miss the 8.
Yeah, with that, John, we'll just see. If they get in the 8, we'll hold fire on that. But if they happen to miss the 8, well, Monday's show will be very interesting, John.
Because we're only going to have... look, we're not going to be having to recap many games, actually, on Monday, and even our previews.
That's the thing.
And my notes are like, nobody cares.
And that's the thing that, John, like, we'll know the finals matchups on Monday, but we'll have a preview show next Thursday where we can look at all those games. So Monday we can spend a fair bit of time looking at some of these teams that have missed the 8 and where they've gone wrong.
And because we'll have to look at your mob, the Bulldogs. I don't need to ever look at the Dragons. It's fine. I know where they went wrong. They let Wayne Bennett go in 2011.
Yeah, well, but at least with the Dragons, John, at least they've had a crack. And the Tigers even have had a crack. The Bulldogs, some of their defence last week against the Sea Eagles, it was just hopeless.
Well, the thing I like to say about the Dragons is there's no I in team, but there's 5 I's in individual brilliance. And each Dragons player is individually brilliant.
5 I's in individual brilliance. I didn't know that, John. You learn something new every day.
So it's, they're really good when each player is running the ball, but as soon as they have to pass, there's an issue with the Dragons. But the Bulldogs have had a massive 2 days of news.
Yes, John.
You've got players, text message going around. Nobody's seen the text message. Hopefully it'll get released like Rod Churchill's message did. 8 players unhappy with Cirello for making them come to work at 8:30 in the morning and stay till 5.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, really, does it, John? So what I will say is that I will come back to that, but there is a player in their top 30. It's been reported today. A player in their top 30 squad walked out of training after he was forced to wrestle more than 12 teammates as punishment for turning up late. Now, this player has denied being late. He believed he wasn't late. He was upset at the incident. Now he doesn't want to come back to the club in 2024 despite being contracted for that season. As I said, the player hasn't been named. He's asked for time off for personal reasons. Hasn't been back at training. Now, we should mention that the players were doing wrestling drills at the time. Look, to me, just looking at it, looks like having 12 players, having to wrestle with 12 players seems excessive to me. I would have thought maybe, 2 or 3, maybe, but for 12 as punishment for being late, I don't know, John.
So I do.
Okay, yeah.
Because
you work in that field, you do.
I coach jiu-jitsu and I coach competition jiu-jitsu, which is wrestling, and a lot of the clubs actually use jiu-jitsu coaches. A lot comes down to it, okay? I've done 12 rounds before. I've done 12 5-minute rounds. I've done 9 10-minute rounds in a session and things like that. It just, I understand it's rugby league, and so it's not dedicated wrestling. Like, you don't want to get people doing 9 10-minute rounds in rugby league of wrestling and jiu-jitsu. If that is, as part of competition coaching, especially as part of team, look, wrestling is an individual sport, but we also have a team. You set these boundaries to your team beforehand. If you are late, you're going to have to wrestle everyone. And then if you come late, you have to wrestle everyone.
Okay.
By not participating in part of that team function of like, this is my punishment for being late. My understanding is this player, like, they don't name the player, but there's heaps of speculation on the internet. Just go to Reddit. You can check out the Reddit detectives are pinning it down. Each list gets shorter and shorter and shorter. My understanding is that player thought that he was well within the range of acceptable lateness over the fact that he says I wasn't late. Yeah, so I was like 5 minutes late or something.
Yeah, I don't buy that. You have a start time in your job. You get there just before you start or on time. You don't get there. To me, 1 minute late's too late.
It's late. 1 minute late is late.
You're late, right? So in your opinion, having experience in the wrestling or jiu-jitsu field, it sounds like you don't think this was an excessive exercise.
It depends on the length of rounds. And I know, I'm 100% certain, I don't know, but I'm 100% certain based on full assumption that there is no way that any qualified proper sports coach would have a rugby league player doing 12 10-minute rounds or 12 5-minute rounds. Right. That is murder. Like, that is actually like excessive. It depends on what they're wrestling. Surely the rugby league wrestling is to pin, not to submission. Like, I do submission. So surely it's to pin. 12-minute rounds if it's just a pin, can last anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes. So it could have been like, he had to do like 20, 30 minutes of wrestling. Until you get all of the information, if it came out that Cameron Serrato was making him do 12 10-minute rounds, I would be Cameron Serrato is crazy. You don't do 12 10-minute rounds of wrestling. Like,
so,
okay,
so you think we need to know a bit more? Yeah. We don't know enough yet.
Absolutely.
That's fair enough. In terms of the players complaining about having to work from 8 to 5:30 or train from 8 to 5:30, give me a break. Now, look, I should qualify that this player, we hope that he's okay. Mental 100%. Health is a big issue. I certainly don't like to see anybody struggling. I hope that this player, who we don't know who it is, we hope that they're okay, and that's a serious issue. There's no question of that. But what I will say in reference to these players you mentioned earlier, who are not happy with having to train from 8 to 5:30, excuse me, the average salary for an NRL player in the top 30 squad is $380,000 a year. If you don't want to be an NRL player, go get an office job where they say it's Monday to Friday 9 to 5. It turns into 9 to 7 for $60,000 a year, where your boss hates you. I mean, good luck with that. If you don't like this life you've got, being on huge money to play football, there's plenty of other jobs you can go and get if you're not happy about it.
This is a bizarre thing to me. I've spoken to rugby league coaches before, shall remain nameless. I would never reveal who I spoke to in a private conversation. And it's kind of a standard, depending on how the team is going, how much they have to turn up. And if you're going poorly, good coaches, like when a team has a failure of the year, as well we've well discussed the Bulldogs have, when a team has a failure of the year, you'll see things in the news like, Dragons had a bad year, the coaches called them back early from holiday. Dragons had a bad year, they're going on a hardcore boot camp. It never happens with Melbourne. But I guarantee if Melbourne had a bad year in which they finished in the bottom 4, it'd be the kind of thing where Craig Bellamy would be like, all right, shit's about to hit fan. Everyone's coming back early. We're going through boot camp. We're going to train harder. And not a single player would complain. Now, it does speak to perhaps Cameron Serrato is too fresh and too new.
Lacking authority.
Yeah, he doesn't have the respect. Of course, he doesn't have the respect that a Wayne Bennett, Des Hasler, Craig Bellamy does, but 8 players in a top 30 squad is actually quite damning.
Yeah, and the general manager, Phil Gould, as we've said before, is on a reported salary of $900,000 a year, so he needs to be earning his keep here, not going off and commentating games with Channel 9. He needs to be at the games front and centre, dealing with all these problems. Matt Burton put up a bomb in that game against Manly, and it was damning footage, John. 5 players didn't chase through, including Burton.
Including Matt Burton. One of the main things that I always speak about with players in the halves, Jonathan Thurston, Andrew Johns, obviously top tier, you have Darren Lockyer, stuff like that, 100% of the time. But even filtering down through the mid-tier halves, one of the main things about halves is they should be the first person chasing their kick. They always know where their kick is going, unless they have a missed kick, but they always know where they intend to kick.
Yeah, and obviously that they can't be in front of the kicker because they kick the ball,
exactly.
So they should be there
They
first.
can run their players on side. It allows the other players, because no matter what your play is, not what your expectation is, because it's always 5 tackles kick to the corner. Until the half kicks the ball, none of the other players can be 100% certain where the ball is going to go. So if you follow your half that kicked the ball, you'll always know where the ball is going to go. Yeah. And if the half doesn't go, why would anyone else go? It's unacceptable. And there were senior players that didn't chase the ball.
Yeah, and the awkward part about it, John, was Serraldo had some choice words for those players in the press conference while Matt Burton was sitting next to him there. How awkward was that? He was having a go at the 5 players who wouldn't chase. Matt Burton was one of them, sitting a metre away from him like you're sitting with me here, John.
And they Manly got a line break off the play as well, right? Because it's a staggered defence. 5 players missing from the defence. The Bulldogs have a lot to do. Yeah. And now they're talking about a club clean-out. This will be the second club clean-out.
But this is the thing. Phil Gould's been there for 2 years now. And then we're talking about, another clean-out? I mean, if he just got there, you could say, well, give him some time. He's had 2 years. 2 years is a long time.
2 coaches in 2 years. Both signed to long-term agreements. Another club clean-out means, they're going to go buy the other half of Penrith. So, Bulldogs need to
The only players they're signing at the moment are interchange players. Jamin Salmon, Blake Taft, with the exception of Stephen Crichton, of course, who's a quality signing and he will help next year, of course. But these other signings, John, they're not going to change. Not much is going to change. Reid Marnie hasn't been himself this year. At Parramatta last year, he was one of the best hookers in the competition. This year, he's just a shadow of his former self, John.
Yeah, I don't know you can't know unless you're sitting inside training. But even someone like Stephen Crichton, you have other players of Stephen Crichton's calibre. Josh Adokar's there, and he has been quiet since he went there. I just don't know. Like, who's their halfback? Kyle Flanagan. Is it?
That to be honest, they've gone through a lot of different halfbacks, John. Yeah, you got Burton at 5'8" there. They've even thrown Jake Averillo in there at times. But he's going to the Titans next year. So it's just been a revolving door, that halfback spot. Flanagan has come back into the frame, but they're not going to. It looks like they're not going to re-sign him, and I think that is the right decision. I don't think he's aimed up. And
I feel sad for that guy.
Look, I mean, he's tried hard. He does try hard. I hope he gets a deal with a club in England.
He should come to the Dragons. His dad'll.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe that's a good fit for you there, John.
With Ben Hunt going, they're going to need a halfback. So I don't know, man. I feel bad for Kyle Flanagan because there's no doubt that he constantly tries. It's just that he got cut from the Roosters, he got cut from the Bulldogs. I think he's an average player. I kind of liken him to someone like Jamie Soward, who was too good for New South Wales Cup, but not good enough for first grade until he got Wayne Bennett as a coach.
So he's sort of stuck in between, isn't he?
Yeah, and so I think Kyle Flanagan just needs the good coach, and it could be his dad.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get a gig in the NRL, he'll find a club in England. He will for sure. He's good enough to play in the Super League.
Yeah, exactly.
There's any number of Super League clubs who would pick him up. Could have a nice life if he goes and plays for Catalans in France there, John.
That's my team. But I like him as a player. I just think, unfortunately, I really loved Jamie Soward when Jamie Soward was there.
It just hasn't worked at the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
It just hasn't worked. That doesn't mean he won't get a gig somewhere else, if not in the NRL, as we say, the Super League. But
he could go to Union.
He could.
Could go play for the Wallabies.
Yeah, the Waratahs, I think he'd go well for them, John. They could do a lot worse than him, for sure.
I think so. So that's the Bulldogs.
Yes.
I don't know. That's going to keep going. I think it'll go next week, the week after. Their end of season party is next week.
Okay.
Ceremony. So
brace yourselves, John.
I think post next week, you'll see a lot more back office coaching, player movement and stuff like that, and we'll keep everybody up to date.
Yeah.
So on to the games. There's massive amounts of complaints. Have you seen this? Because of the ridiculousness of the quality of games that we're going to have over the weekend. Broncos and Storm. Storm already said they're going to rest up to 10 players.
There's a lot of players. If you don't mind, John, I'm just going to bring up a list of all the players, all the superstars who are resting this weekend.
Not a problem.
You
got the out. I love the outs. You can see it on NRL.
Yeah, so all the big guns not named this week, John. This is in no particular order. Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobbo, Ezra Mann, Payne Haas, Cameron Munster, Xavier Coates, Nelson Asofa Solomona, Sean Johnson, Adam Fanua-Blake, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, Dane Gagai and Tyson Frizzell, John. So, a lot of teams. My attitude towards this, John, is, well, they've earned that right. They've earned their position. They've got their eyes on the big prize at the end of September, early October. As long as they're transparent with it and it's not an issue for the betting agencies with not knowing who's going to play.
It has actually messed with a lot of odds.
There you go.
Some of the matches.
Yeah.
Look, I don't have a problem with it, like as you say, because they named the squad on Tuesday and then slim it down on Thursday and then slim it down again an hour before the game. Everybody knows what's happening, and none of the clubs are sitting there like they actually have in the past saying, Nathan Hindmarsh has an injured toe, 2009. And then have him on the footy show with his toe being played with.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff on the internet about how NRL should follow the AFL bye week. What people don't understand is in a situation which we have discussed at length over the past few episodes, the situation is with the ladder, for the most of the top teams, it doesn't matter what happens this week. So even if there was a bye next week, they would still be resting their players because it simply doesn't matter.
Yeah. And Brayton Astor said a similar thing on TV last night, John, that they're not... The bye week wouldn't change this because their issue is they don't want the player getting injured.
Exactly.
So they don't care about how many weeks the player's off. They'd rather just not risk the player getting injured. They're prepared to take the risk of maybe having them underdone. They'd much rather them potentially be underdone than risk them getting injured, John.
So Panthers did pull wait until the Broncos and Storm were named before they named, and they're apparently going to do it again on Thursday. And of course, they have until that last hour on their game is Saturday to confirm their squad. Because, you know, if the Storm win, Panthers can go and get their $200,000 minor premiership. I think it's $200,000 now. But again, it doesn't matter where they finish. They get a home final. Neither the Panthers nor the Broncos at full strength care about playing the Warriors or the Storm.
No.
So they don't need to work to tweak it and stuff like that.
No.
Storm winning can replace Warriors if the Warriors lose, and we'll get to that game because that's one of the ones that had odds issues. And again, the Warriors and the Storm, they don't care who they have to play, either Broncos or Panthers. Either way, it's the same for both of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's irrelevant. Bottom half is a little bit more, and you can see it in the squad announcements. Bottom half of the top 8, the teams named better squads because they actually have an issue.
Incentive, yes.
So, you know, I actually expect the Storm to win because...
Yeah, they got the Broncos on Thursday night,
Yeah, I think the Storm
so Melbourne's won the last 13 games between these two teams, John.
And I know they have zero fear about Suncorp. That's at Suncorp, right?
It is, yep.
Yeah,
7:50 p.m. Thursday.
Zero fear. So...
So as you were saying, John, it looks like these two teams could face off 2 weeks in a row there because of how the ladder positioning is shaping. So Adam Reynolds with a calf and Pat Carrigan with a foot injury both missed that game against Canberra, and they'll also sit this game out. No, why wouldn't they?
Even
why would you take the risk?
Expected back, they would have been rested.
Yeah,
both
so
those guys.
Yeah, so Katoni Staggs is suspended for this game. Reynolds and Carrigan they'll be right to go for week one of the
Staggs
finals.
is actually apparently carrying a niggle as well, so suspension is a rest. Either way.
Well, he wouldn't have played anyway, John. It's a good time to get suspended, isn't it, for one game? So Jock Madden's doing a good job filling in for Reynolds at the moment, so he'll do that again this week. A Brisbane win would see them lock in the minor premiership, John. So they've won 4 minor premierships previously in 1992, 97, the Super League year 98 and 2000.
We don't count 97.
Yeah, so if we don't count 97, we've got 3. So 92, 98, 2000.
Never count any Super League stats.
Yeah, so for Melbourne, John, if you don't mind me saying, Jerome Hughes, he won't play with that knee injury again. No. Why would you risk it? So Joan at Pezzett won't come in for Hughes. He injured his hamstring in the Queensland Cup on Saturday. So Jaden Nikorima could come in, or Nick Meaney might go to the halves, and that would allow Ryan Pappenhausen to start.
Yep.
So they might want to give him a run starting at fullback before the finals, John. It might be a good option.
Ryan Pappenhausen has been named at fullback.
Yeah.
And it's like I said the other day, if he gets a good 80 minutes under his belt, he'll drag the Storm kicking and screaming through the finals.
Yeah, he's been named at fullback. I guess we obviously don't know, do we, until...
1 hour
but, you know...
Even after 1 hour before. We don't 1 hour
so
on the field.
I don't, to be honest, John, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to who's been named and who hasn't because it doesn't mean a whole lot. But yeah, it's good to know. He's certainly in the frame there. So Cameron Munster scored 4 tries in his last 4 games against the Broncos, but yeah, he's not playing, of course.
Yep.
So the Storm are 27 from 35 at Suncorp Stadium. So a 77% strike rate there,
Zero
John.
fear. And so SmartB odds, head to smartb.com.au. Check out the Rugby League odds. Broncos are the favourites at $1.68 with Storm, that's with SportsBet. Storm blowing out to $2.98 with Better. I actually think the Storm will win, and that's a good bet. $2.98.
Won the last 13. I don't think you can get any more comprehensive than that, John.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 changes from last week.
It's the culture there, though, isn't it? They find a way to get the job done under Craig Bellamy.
The other game on Friday is the Sea Eagles Tigers, and whoever picked that game must be kicking themselves. I don't know how the TV works now. I know like Fox and Channel 9 used to take turns in picking, but now Fox has every match. So
yeah,
but scheduling the Sea Eagles versus the Tigers on a Friday is definitely the worst scheduling thing I have ever seen.
Yeah. So obviously, John, both teams out of the running for finals. It is Jake Trebojevich's 200th game. He becomes the 18th player to play 200 games for Manly. The last time they met was back in April. Manly won 22-16 at Campbelltown. So Manly's won 6 of the last 7 against the Tigers, John. That's no surprise. Yeah, it's no surprise, really. So Daly Cherry Evans has got 14 tries in 19 games against the West Tigers. That's his best try-scoring rate against any club.
He'll carve them up.
And this is not going to be any surprise to you, John. The Tigers don't have a good record at Brookvale. They've only won 3 of 16 games there.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to sit down and find a good stat for the Tigers. Because when you say the Manly Seagulls won 6 of the last 7, every team's won 6 of the last 7.
Yeah.
Tigers don't have a good record at Brookvale. What stadium do they have?
We will find out.
Yeah, we'll find one.
We will find one.
Maybe they have a good record at Perth because they played there once and won.
Yeah. A bit of team news for this one, John. So Ruben Garrick's got a back injury for Manly, but he's a chance of returning.
That's that back injury from that tackle.
Yeah. Would you really risk it though with nothing to play for?
Not at all.
Christian Tuipulotu has a knee injury and Cooper John's biceps, but they both might play, John. They both might come back. Of course, he's the son of the great Matty Johns.
Yep.
For the Tigers, Charlie Staines with a hamstring and Luke Brooks with a calf. They won't play in this game, but Alex Twal could return from illness, and Jake Simkin might be an inclusion after coming back from that head knock, John.
My notes actually say, if you can see very closely, nobody cares. That's why we keep Dan around, because he actually takes proper notes. So on to the Roosters.
Yes, the next game.
Raiders. So the Rabbitohs.
The Rabbitohs and Roosters. Yep,
this one actually decides the finals.
It does, yes. So
if Souths win,
yep,
that's it. That's the finals is over. The finals are set. Every other game after this don't matter.
Yeah.
If the Roosters win, then Saturday we decide who wins. Now, based on the team list, this is actually one of those ones that's very weird. The teams are really even in the odds. SmartB.com.au for the odds, for your best odds. South started the round at $2.01 with BoomBet, while Sydney Roosters started the round at $2 with BetRight. So perfectly, that would have been the perfect time to put a tenner on both.
Good idea, John.
Now,
hedge your bets.
South Sydney have firmed to $1.85 with Sportsbet, and the Roosters have blown out to $2.08 with BoomBet. So it's still pretty close, but it's no longer worth putting a tenner on both. That's
right. Yeah. So the form line favours the Roosters in this one, John. They've won their last 4. That's their best winning streak of the season. The Rabbitohs are looking a bit scratchy, though, on the other hand. They had that 29-10 loss to the Knights before having a bye. I don't think that bye really suited them, John, apart from getting the 2 points, which are obviously much needed given that they're in that 3-way tie with the Roosters and Cowboys on 30 competition points. I think they would have preferred to play and find some form last week, but
they could use the bye week to sort out all this Latrell Mitchell stuff. Maybe they went and had they used to go do things like go to Russell Crowe's farm, sit around the fire.
Look, the Roosters won 20-18 when they played earlier this year. These two teams are 2-2 from the last 4 times they've played against each other, so 2 wins, 2 losses. The Rabbitohs are 4 wins, 4 losses in 8 games at the Olympic Stadium this season, John, while the Roosters haven't played there at all this season and haven't won in their last 4 games there.
I hate that stadium, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone likes it, John.
It was good for the Matildas, but that was about it.
James Tedesco is expected to play. John, missing that last game with the head knock. I'm not sure if he was named or not again.
He was named.
He was named, yeah. And
you would expect him to play because Joey Manu is out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Joey Manu picked up that hamstring injury last week.
So it's either going to be, if Tedesco's fine, we'll know when an hour before it'll be Tedesco at fullback. Otherwise, I'm sure they'll put Suwali back there.
Yeah, for the Bunnies, John, the Bulldogs bound, as we talked about. Blake Taaffe, he'll play fullback with Latrell Mitchell out suspended. Taaffe played fullback when Latrell was missing for 7 games earlier in the year through injury, so he's familiar with the role.
Yeah.
Jed Cartwright's likely to be available, recovering from a back injury. Again, not sure if he was named, but the Roosters... that's the team news, John. The Roosters averaged 359 tackles a game this season, which is more than any other team. And this sort of goes hand in hand with that stat, John. They've also conceded the most penalties this season.
They always do.
150
There's
penalties, John.
Something weird about that, right, with the Roosters, where they've had... Since I've followed rugby league, Roosters pretty much every year top the penalty count. They've had different coaches, different players, like everything, but they still continue to top the penalty count.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, I know there was a few years ago where the referees actually finally admitted that, yes, they do have a list.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
there's a lot of Roosters on it.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Like how even Trent Robinson, one of the most disciplined coaches in rugby league, still his team gives away so many penalties.
Yeah, I think in the past they were always happy to give away a penalty and just back their defence to hold them out, John. But I guess
this year it's not
since the 6 again rules come in, it's been harder to use that tactic. If you're playing with fire, doing that with the 6 again rule. That having been said, though, a lot of the time the referees in big games and big situations in a game, they're reluctant to give the 6 again. So now the 6 again rule, it's sort of the fact that it's been brought in, it's sort of the purpose of it's now being defeated a little bit because they're sort of putting, not that they use the whistle to give 6 again, but they're putting the whistle away on that one as well, John.
I don't really like that 6 again.
It's just if the referee's not going to use it, there's no point in it, John.
But I find it like really swings games when you get that roll on 6 again, 6 again, 6 again. I've been to it, like there was a Dragons Cronulla game last year where the Dragons were up because when it was Cronulla first, Cronulla were up because it was on the back of like 6 again, 6 again, 6 again, and then the Dragons finally got the ball after like 20 minutes, and then the Dragons were up on the back of them 6 again. And then the Cronulla finally got the ball back, and then they ended up winning. So I like it more when the referee doesn't use it as much. So the Roosters sit kind of in the middle of the ladder on the points conceded this year. They do have that minus points differential, which is going to come into play when we move to Saturday.
Yeah.
So the odds were, Rabbitohs are currently favourites, but it's very close. It's not an easy one to call. That's going to be my hardest one in my tipping comp, and that could actually be the match that decides my tipping comp. Seeing
there you go.
Tied for first.
There you go. What's the prize if you win your tipping comp? Is there a bit of cash involved?
$300.
$300, not bad. Nothing to be sneezed at.
Last year I came second, and I wanted to win this year, but I am tied for first, and I think that's the game that. So we're behind closed doors now as well, so I don't even know what the other guys tip. So yeah, we'll see what happens there, and I'll let everybody know if I won $300.
I've just got one more stat for you on that game, John. South Sydney have had the highest number of errors this season of all the top 8 teams, with 218.
That's terrible. You don't want to be giving away errors to the Roosters. Dolphins and the Warriors. So Warriors, I wrote in the note at the beginning of the week that if I was the Warriors coach, I'd be resting everyone. And he has. It doesn't matter what happens with the Warriors. They are locked into a top 4 spot. They get a second chance. They'll either play Broncos or Panthers. Warriors have no control over that. So yeah, just resting players. They are currently behind on the points differential with Storm. So if the Storm win, Warriors lose, Storm will overtake them. Storm win, Warriors win, it stays the same. Storm lose, Warriors win, it stays the same. So they can't beat. Oh no, they can't beat Penrith, so they can't get second. So Warriors are in 3rd or 4th. This match is so they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. They're basically resting.
Yeah, a few stats for you on that game, John. The Warriors have won their last 7. The Warriors' record, though, isn't good at Suncorp Stadium. They've lost their last 3 and 5 of their last 6 there. That's no real surprise, though, given that they've only come good this year. It's not a stat that really shocks you. The Warriors, though, have a great away record in 2023. This is a more relevant stat, winning 8 of 11 games away this year. That's the equal second best away record in the competition this year. The Warriors are going for 8 wins in a row for only the second time in their history.
Wow.
So the Dolphins, though, John, on the other hand, they've lost 10 of their last 11. The Dolphins made 13 errors and completed at just 63% against the Cowboys. So the season, you feel like it's just got too long for the Dolphins, John?
Yeah. Well, this is one of those ones that was affected by the team names with the odds, right? So even in my notes, there's been massive differences. The Dolphins started the week at $2.49 sports bet, with the Warriors starting at $1.65 with Colossal Bet, because pre-team names, Warriors are definitely going to beat the Dolphins.
Yeah.
After teams were named, the Dolphins have dropped down to $1.60 with sports bet. Now, see, when I took my notes, the Dolphins have dropped down. They were at $1.96.
Yeah.
So they firmed even further. And the Warriors were at $2.02, and they've blown out even further to $2.40 with Nets.
Yeah.
So it has been affected by the naming of the teams, the odds. But again, it doesn't matter because the bookmakers will make money anyway.
Yeah.
What are you really gambling with?
A couple more little interesting tidbits for you on this game, John. It is hard to go into the team news, as you say, because it's changing all the time. It's hard to keep up with it. But, the Dolphins have had the least errors of any team this season, John.
It's a Wayne Bennett team.
Yeah. If you can,
and
you know all
push
about that.
passes, doesn't allow useless offloads.
Yeah, the Warriors won 30-8 last time they played in Auckland this year, and Dolphins fullback Jermaine Saga leads the competition for both points with 230 and tries with 23, John.
Oh, has he been named? No, he's not been named, right? Osako, Dolphins. He is.
Yeah, he has been named. Yeah.
Named on the wing.
Yeah.
So that's he's ridiculous. He's just touched on Monday. The ridiculous amount of points that guy has scored is, and it's one of those. I remember Nathan Merritt used to win top try scorer from bottom place team. So the Dolphins can attack. Wayne Bennett will spend all the off season. He'll probably call the players back early. He has got some. We'll go over every team when the year ends, but he has signed more players. He'll have more depth next year. I would expect with the Wayne Bennett coach team, the Dolphins to improve next year and push for the 8.
Yeah.
They might be in one of the positions like the Cowboys are, where if they win, they're in the 8.
Yeah, all in all, they've done well not to finish last, John.
Yeah,
they've finished above 3 teams. But as you say, our expectations just probably got a little bit higher there when they won their first 3 games of the season.
And then they only won 5 more.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it's good.
Yeah.
0 for 5 in the last 5. Poor little guys. Another game on Saturday is the Panthers versus Cowboys. I think the main thing about this match is it would really speak to the quality of coaching. Even though the Panthers have... Well, the Panthers named a pretty strong squad in their 45 million people they have to name. With the only people missing Jerome Luai and Jesse McLean. Jerome Luai's injured. Jesse McLean, I'm not really sure. But they have named a pretty strong squad. And as I said before, it would depend on what happens on Thursday, what they go to the match with.
Yeah.
The odds are... They were pretty even to open the week. So $1.67 with BetRight on Panthers and $2.45 with PointsBet on North Queensland. After the squads were named and Panthers has named a full-strength squad, Cowboys have blown out to $4 with SportsBet.
Yeah, there you
the
go.
Panthers have blown out, dropped down to $1.30 with Neds.
Yeah.
Expect that to change a lot. And if you put money on it now or quickly after the Broncos Storm game, if the Broncos win, I would say... If you've put $5 on North Queensland to win at $4, you good chance.
Yeah, smartb.com.au is your place to go, John.
100%.
For all your best betting odds there. A few stats for you on this one, John. The Cowboys have won their last 2 against the Panthers, so they're a very rare team to have a good recent record against Penrith. Penrith have only lost 2 games at home this season. Last week's loss against the Eels was their first defeat there since round 1. So Jack Cogger, you mentioned Jerome Luai out with that shoulder injury, John. Jack Cogger's going to come in for him. He's done a good job filling in where he's needed to be. If Cleary or Luai have been missing, he's done well in that role, Jack Cogger.
That's the Panthers. Somebody's out, they've got someone to fill in who can just fill in the exact job they need.
That's right, John. So the Cowboys haven't won at this ground since 2016. While the Panthers haven't lost 2 in a row at home since 2019. That's no surprise given that they've been in the grand final or won it every year since 2020. Brian To'o, I'm not sure if he's named for this one, John. He is named. So he's got 14 tries in his last 10 games at Penrith Stadium, John.
Bet any time. Anytime try score for sure. But again, he might be dropped, rested, depending on what happens in Broncos.
It's the same 17 for the Cowboys as the one that beat the Dolphins, John. Zach Laybuck keeps his spot in the centres after scoring 2 tries in only his 3rd game. So there you go, John.
I think, it'll speak a lot to coaches Dean Hallertau, right? Who's the coach for the Cowboys?
I'm Todd Payton.
Todd Payton. They're all the same to me, those ex-Tigers players. They all look the same, like ex-Tigers players. So I think it'll speak a lot to the quality of his coaching. If even the Cowboys are super competitive for this last round, because, say, if they get up and win, depending on the night before, they will be the top 8 team. So if the Roosters win the night before, the Cowboys still have a chance. So it'll all come down, I think, a lot to coaching, the build-up, and then the players can do what they can do.
It's very interesting, that 3-way battle there at the bottom of the top 8, John.
If only the Eels didn't have a bye, they could still be in it too.
Poor Parramatta.
So, on to
the next game, John.
There was a point in this, it was ridiculous. Even my notes said, this is ridiculous. There was a point during the week where the Dragons were the favourites.
Oh, wow. Wow.
They're not now, and you know what the odds are? Current odds are $1.96 with Neds for the Dragons and $1.95 with PointsBet for Newcastle Knights. Check it out on smartb.com.au.
Yep.
Honestly, those odds are ridiculous. Knights have, if we just check their team, of course they're missing Ponga. Is Ponga that massive of a difference that he can make the Dragons be favourites? Because it was before teams were named, Dragons were the favourites.
Well, I mean, you'd from Newcastle's point of view, you'd want to be getting the job done against a team like the Dragons at this time of year, John. I mean, Newcastle are going for 9 wins in a row. It's a huge turnaround. They were 14th after round 19, John. This has just been a phenomenal turnaround in their season.
Coach of the year, surely. Justin O'Brien?
Adam O'Brien, yeah.
Surely he'll get the Coach of the Year for that.
Yeah, so Lachlan Miller's going to replace Kalen Ponga there, John, for the Knights. Jackson Hastings and Lachlan Fitzgibbon are named in the reserves and they could play. Hastings still carrying that ankle injury, Fitzgibbon the shoulder.
They should rest.
The Knights haven't won at Jubilee since 2009, John.
Yeah, I remember that game. I was there. It was the Dragons were up, and Wendell Saylor was making fun of Adam McDougall for score because Wendell had scored 2 tries, and then Mad Dog scored 2 tries.
So I'm sorry to say, John, the Dragons will finish second last. Their equal worst finish since becoming a joint venture. That's equal with 2019, unfortunately for them.
But at least they can't lose it. Unless the Tigers win by 200. And the Dragons lose by 200.
Jack DeBellin back from suspension at lock. John Michael Molo going back to the bench. The Dragons have won 5 of their last 7 against the Knights, John. It's a bit of optimism for you.
No bet worth placing on it, actually.
The Dragons have won 4 of their last 5 at Jubilee, John. So it's their home ground's a happy ground for them. And Ben Hunt has a try in his last 4 games there, John.
This might be Ben Hunt's last game as well. And Adam Clune returns to the Dragons to play against the Dragons, and I like Adam Clune. I wish we'd never let him go. I can't really see anything worth that at all. Yeah, I will probably watch it, but then we move to another one of my notes here. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Yeah, Titans, Bulldogs. I know nobody really cares about the result, John, but just got an interesting stat for you here. Bulldogs-related statistic. So this is points conceded per game for their recent coaches, okay? So Des Hasler, when he was there, they conceded 18 points a game. When Dean Pay was there, they conceded 20 a game. When Trent Barrett was there, they conceded 27 a game. When Mick Potter was there, 25 points conceded a game. Now, under Cameron Serraldo this year, John, 32 points a game.
It's the Dogs of War that lose. It's the Canterbury, they should be the French Bulldogs.
Braithen Astor talked about last night how, back in his day, how the Bulldogs trained hard and they were, as you said, the Dogs of War, and there was a strong culture at the club. Those days are just long gone now, John. They're in danger of becoming the new West Tigers.
They really actually are. Those stats are terrible, actually, to concede that many points. We talked about they scored 24 points last week, and you can't be scoring 24 points and losing, but to score 24 points and lose by 18
Yeah, not even get close to winning.
That's nonsense. They're missing tackles. They're currently paying $3.90 with Neds. With all of this off-field drama, you just can't see them winning at all.
No.
The Titans, they have nothing to play for, but they'll do the Bulldogs easily. It's in Queensland as well.
Yeah, so they're still trying to impress their new coach for next year, Des Hasler. So,
and then we move to actually the most important game of the round. It's not going to be the highest quality match, well, not guaranteed to be the highest quality match. But aside from Roosters Rabbitohs, this is a very important match. If the Rabbitohs win, and the Cowboys win, and the Raiders lose, the Raiders will miss the 8. Okay? If the Roosters win, if the Roosters win, and the Cowboys win, and the Raiders lose, the Raiders will miss the 8. So basically, if the Raiders lose, they will miss the 8, probably.
Yeah, I nearly fell off my chair when I saw this stat, John. The Raiders have won their last 9 against the Sharks. So there you go. It's a crazy one, isn't it? So Canberra won 24-20 back in round 3 when they last played. It'll be the 200th game for Jordan Rapiner as well for the Raiders. Nico Hines for the Sharks. He's back after being out of that Knights game with that quad injury. So Braden Trindle moves back to 5/8 with Matt Moylan going back to the bench. There you go, John.
The Sharks are dominant favourites. They're paying $1.38 with Bluebet right now, while Canberra is paying. They've blown out to $3. Sorry, Bluebet. Raiders have blown out to $3.40 with Boombet. We'll get into the Raiders, but next week as we've discussed. But I actually can't see the Raiders winning this at all.
Unfortunately, Josh Papali, he's been ruled out. He's out for the season. He's out for the season with a biceps injury.
Huge loss.
Although good news is halfback Jamal Fogarty's been named, John, even though he suffered that facial injury against the Broncos. So
strap it up, bro.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Big game, as you said, John. A lot of potential top 8 implications with this game.
This is not the match of the round because of the possible quality of football. It's the match of the round because we are again going to be we waited last week for the AFL. Last match of the round will determine the 8. This is going to be possibly Jared Croker's last game for the Raiders. He'll be coming off the bench. He's a legend of the Raiders. He's played like $1 million games for them and stuff. So hopefully they can actually win, to be honest, just if not for anything but for Jared Croker.
Played his 300th earlier in the season too.
All one club.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. They thought he wasn't going to do it, and he managed to do it. And that was the week they rested him to get a home.
Yeah, rested him. That was a bit a bit of contention around that, especially now considering, what their position. But
changed the outcome of the game with the way the Raiders are. Come on. At the time, yes, but now, it was actually meaningless.
Yeah.
So that's the NRL for the week. We're going to have a lot to talk about on Monday for the NRL.
I think Monday we'll have a look at these teams that have missed out. Obviously, we'll go through the finals matchups. We'll have a close look at where these teams that missed out went wrong.
Where do they go?
And then obviously we'll look at that first week of finals in detail in our preview show on Thursday next week, John.
Definitely. So we can look at the basketball.
Yep.
I'm just going to pop open the actual basketball standings right now. So Australia actually, they listened to me.
They did.
They came out of the blocks last night against Japan in dominant fashion. They won every quarter except for the third, and they only lost that 35-30. They won by 20 points. Josh Giddey is definitely Australia's best player. He's on fire.
So topped the points for Australia in that game against Japan with 26 and the assists with 11, John.
Yeah, so this is the first time ever Australia's had 2 double-doubles in a game. Josh Giddey and Xavier Cooks both got double-doubles. So the Basketball World Cup is a little bit complex with what happens next week because everyone who finished bottom of the ladder still gets to play and stuff, right? Yeah. There's 3 or 4 different kind of things, and week 1, week 2, week 3 nonsense. Week 2 will finish today, and week 3 will start tomorrow. We will do some social media posts to keep everyone updated for the second round of the standings because we still don't know who Australia will play next. It's most likely going to be Slovenia, who are playing. Now I don't know how to pronounce this country. Cape Verde.
Yeah, right.
Cape Verde. They most definitely are going to win. If they don't, it's a joke because Slovenia's paying $1.02.
Yeah.
And Cape Verde is paying $14.
Yeah, well.
And so Georgia is the other team that Australia can play, even if they should win against Venezuela because they're paying $1.10. Venezuela's $7.50.
Yeah.
Georgia will get topped by Slovenia, so we'll be playing Slovenia.
Yeah, so Germany's finished first in Group E, John, with the Aussies finishing second there.
We will be playing...
Yeah, Xavier Cooks had a good game too there against Japan. 16 rebounds, topped the rebound.
He was very good. I was watching it last night. And it was actually exactly everything I discussed. We discussed on Monday. They had tended to have an over-reliance on Paddy Mills. Paddy Mills had a relatively quiet game. He only scored 11 points. But I find it was more that Australia stopped relying on him because in the previous matches, what was happening was he would go off because everybody goes off in basketball, and Australia would really flatten, and then he would come on and try and do it all himself. In the first 2 matches, he was the top point scorer for Australia.
Yeah.
This time they let him just play his game, and they worked together as a team. They came out of the blocks firing. They put on points. I think at one point, and they scored 14 unanswered points, and Josh Giddey was 10 of them or something like that. So they did exactly what they needed to do. They should take me on as a basketball coach.
Yeah, 109-89, big win. It was the first time Australia and Japan have met at the Basketball World Cup too.
Okay, wow. And it was in front of a Japan crowd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Australia will
good
play
place to do it.
On Friday. Oh, they get a bit of a break. That's nice. They'll play on Friday. Times are even TBD. Because it depends on the outcomes of the other games, how long they have to give everyone rest falls and stuff. I think if Australia continues this form, they can beat Slovenia and then progress through. They do need to win every game from here. Let's hope they do.
Yep, fingers crossed, John.
I think the other team they'll have to play is Georgia, might be in their next pool. And I think the other interesting thing that I saw was New Zealand won, right? I know New Zealand is playing today. And they did beat Jordan, when was it, Monday? And they're playing Greece today. And there's an outcry in the US about their nickname. Because they're the Tall Blacks. Basketball, first time America's really paid attention to a New Zealand sport. What they don't realise is every single New Zealand team is something Blacks. So All Blacks, the Black Caps, Apparently their badminton team had a nickname that was the Blackhawks, but they had to change that.
Yeah.
So, this is a shuttlecock. Do you want to give a US Open update?
I'd be happy to jump in and do that for you, John. So what I'll do is I'll go through the Aussie results on today, Wednesday first, and then I'll take you through the Tuesday results. So Wednesday, John, very fresh breaking news. 13th seed Alex Demonaz just beaten Kazakhstan's Timothy Skatov in 4 sets, so he's through to the second round. Well done, Alex. 2020 finalist Alexander Zverev beat Aussie Alexander Vukic in straight sets. James Duckworth lost in straight sets, unfortunately, John. Jordan Thompson, he lost the first set before pulling out with an ankle problem. Well, Jason Kubler also had to retire after losing the first set of his match. Tanasi Kokkinakis, more bad news, I'm sorry to say, John, lost his first round match in 4 sets. Now, here's one where we were bound to get a win in, John. Chris O'Connell going up against Max Purcell. O'Connell got the job done in 4 sets, John, so he goes through the next round. I'll go through the next round matches in a moment, John. I'll just get through the rest of these results.
Purcell. It's so sad.
Yeah. So that was today's results, John. Tuesday's results. Alexei Popyrin, he's out. He lost in 4 sets to Switzerland's Dominic Stricker.
I did watch that. That was on in the office. It was. I don't think he was ever in that match, actually, to be honest. It was. He lost the first 2, won the third, lost the fourth. Yeah, and that was pretty dominant fashion.
Yep, Rinky Hijikata, he's through though. He won in 4 over Russian Pavel Kosovo, John. In the women's, Ilya Tomljanovic, who famously, as we said the other day, ended Serena Williams' career last year. She beat Panna Udvardi of Hungary in 3 sets, John, so she goes through. Daria Saville thrashed American, I think, again, forgive me for the pronunciations here, John, but Clervy Ngonu, 6-love, 6-2, huge win for Daria Saville. Unfortunately, though, John, Olivia Gadecki, Kim Birrell and Storm Hunter, all Aussies, they all went down, I'm sorry to say. I can take you through the next matches for these players 100%. If you want, John. Unfortunately, it's look out for Chris O'Connell, John. He's got Daniil Medvedev in the next round. Hijikata, he'll play Martin Fucsovics of Hungary in the next round. A tough one coming up for Ilya Tomljanovic, John. She takes on 4th seed Elena Rybakina of Kazakhstan. She's the 2022 Wimbledon champion. The toughest task, though, is that of Daria Saville in the next round, John. She plays number 1 seed and defending champion Iga Swiatek. And John, as of about 9:30 this morning, we didn't know Demonar's next opponent. It hadn't been determined yet. I don't know if you want to maybe Google him and see if he's if you just Google his name, maybe it might come up. It might not. It may not be known yet.
Because he was waiting for.
Yes, to be determined. So we're not sure yet.
Friday.
Yep.
We'll find out on Friday. Well, we'll find out later today, right?
Yeah, and also, John, Novak Djokovic beat Alexandra Muller 6-love, 6-2, 6-3 in just 96 minutes. He plays Spaniard Bernabe Zapata Morales in the next match. Good luck, Bernabe, with that one.
So I watched the Novak. That was actually the Novak match was a classic of exactly what you were talking about. It's the times are only a guide. He was meant to play at 10:30. He ended up playing at 1 p.m. And so people were like, why are you watching all these weird tennis players? I'm waiting for Novak.
Yeah, sometimes they finish at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon our time, John, if you get a really long men's 5 setup.
I would hate to be that. So one of the things about this, imagine you look at your draw and Novak is your first match. It just sucks to be that person 100% of the time. I
mean, there are 2 ways of looking at it, aren't there? I mean, what a great experience playing against a player of that stature. For a lot of these players, they would be telling that story into their elderly years. It's a good pub story for them, but I get what you mean. If you want to go further in the tournament and earn more money, more prize money, it's not...
ranking points, everything,
Yeah.
Novak did take the first number 1 spot back with that win.
He only needed to win that one match, John, to get it back, because he's got no points to defend after missing the event last year with that vaccination bungle.
So, funny thing from the US Open, Maria Scarri, she complained to the referee about the smell of weed.
Oh, right, okay.
It's Nick Kyrgios actually made the same complaint last year. I've been to the US. It does actually smell in a lot of places like weed. Weed is legal in a lot of places, so it's quite funny. She wasn't having a go or anything. She thought it was funny. It's a great thing from the US Open. Place smells like weed. And there was a disappointing occurrence. One of the players got booed off court for her slow play. Apparently, I can't remember her name. Apparently, she has form in slow play, but she was playing against an American at the time, and now she cried in the press conferences, says she's never going to play at the US Open again. If you look, to be honest, if you want to be a sports person, you have to accept boos. I know tennis is a very polite sport, but yeah, like a bit of poor form from both the crowd and the player. I think to say I'm not going to play because they booed me.
I mean that's a bit of an issue with the US crowd, John, is that they like that sort of, as with the basketball, they like those sort of the bright lights. They like the sort of razzmatazz of sport, and so it's sort of this. If you look at an event like Wimbledon, where they're all very civilized, the Americans just don't sort of view it that way. Yeah. They'll call out at players in between serves. They'll boo players for if a player misses and hits a double fault, they'll jeer the player. They're just like little sort of points of etiquette that are usually sort of respected in tennis that the US crowd just seems to overlook a little bit, John.
So yeah, that's I hope that I can't remember her name. I actually wrote it down from missing my page, but I hope she continues to play. But yeah, apparently she does have form. A lot of her opponents complain about slow play, which in tennis is a massive thing. I know. First time you ever saw Roger Federer angry was against Djokovic. Djokovic doing slow play in between points. So yeah, one of the things I forgot to bring up the other day about the Matildas. We're still going on about the Matildas, which actually speaks a lot again to how amazing their run was and everything like that.
They're still making the news.
People are complaining because their ranking dropped. Unfortunately for soccer, they use an ELO ranking system, which is, originally invented for chess. Because they had an issue in chess, from what I understand, where people would play really crappy opponents to build up pad their record and build up their ranking. So they implemented an ELO system in which if you play someone bad, you don't get as many points. And, apparently, the Matildas didn't play as good opponents as the other teams that moved up in rank. So they dropped down to 11th. I think they lost 2 ranking spots, 2 or 4, something like that. It kind of goes to show how little rankings mean in a sport like that.
It's very strange. I would have thought, the weighting would be on where they finish in the tournament. You reach the semi-finals of the tournament. Sorry, did you say they were 10th or 11th in the
something
rankings?
Like that.
Yeah, so...
I'll just check that. I think they dropped to 11th. And they lost 2 or 4 spots or something like that. It was, there's a lot of, obviously, Australians are complaining about it, right? So Australia dropped to 11th.
So they were 10th, were they? And they've dropped to 11th, I think. What's happened? So they have 1,800. So you'd think a team sort of ranked about 10 or 11, John, if they reached the semi-finals of the World Cup, you'd think their ranking would improve. So,
but unfortunately, it went down. That's just the ranking
that's
they
just
use.
the system.
Because you can't. There's arguments for and against every system.
Yeah.
ELO ranking system is specifically designed so somebody like I don't know, like someone, let's say New Zealand, who are ranked 26th, if they just go out and play Uzbekistan, Paraguay, Slovakia, Northern Ireland, who are like the 50th ranked team, Thailand, South Africa, and just smash them and grow up their rankings, because rankings also has to do with seeding. So, and it's, all the draw and stuff like that. So it is a system that was specifically invented to stop people from exploiting it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people used to criticise some cricket players for having massive batting averages or massive run totals, because it'd be like, but it's because they scored 7 centuries against Jamaica. So there's always going to be...
And the not outs, the not outs. If you bat 4 times and only get out once and you score 400 runs, well, your average is 400.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So there's benefits and bad things about every single system, but I think just people should forget... It's only Australia complaining, by the way.
And again, it sounds as though the rankings just aren't that big a deal.
No, I don't think so. But there's not going to be another World Cup for another 4 years, so that's when it will matter. actually, because that'll come down to grouping and seeding.
Yeah, so plenty of time for the Matildas to improve on that ranking between now and that next World Cup.
They can grow, exactly. The other thing that actually happened yesterday, so the NFL, NBA, and UFC are trying to get the DMCA laws changed in the US. So DMCA laws, for anyone who doesn't know, govern how quickly they will take down illegal streams. Apparently what the problem is with it now that they complain about is they submit and it takes like 4 to 5 hours for the stream to be taken down, but by that time the match is over.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this, right, it's very funny to me. This law was actually made in 1998 to stop illegal streaming of content. All content, movies, everything. The internet had only been around for 2 years. So no matter what you do, pirates are going to pirate.
It was waiting to happen, right?
They have this big thing in the UFC, especially about pirate and illegal streams and stuff like that. And what I'm going to say about it is no one pirated the Soccer World Cup all over the world. You know why? Because it was on free to air in every country. If these guys put their sports on free to air, they wouldn't have to worry about DMCA laws. They wouldn't have to worry. But unfortunately, they put them on pay-per-view. They put them on ESPN and stuff like that. It's no longer the way of the future.
Yeah. So they're playing with. So what you're saying is they're playing with fire when they don't put their sport on free-to-air television.
Exactly. You want to put it in a way like no matter what, pirates are going to pirate. You know, we had the advent of Netflix, which actually reduced piracy in Australia because Australia's the #1 piracy country. Reduced piracy, but then because of the things like pirates continue to pirate because of the things like Binge, Stan, Paramount Plus, HBO, like so many things, Foxtel, KO. You have to now. It's like we're back up to $200 a month. Piracy's grown again.
And it's surprising that, as you say, John, it's surprising that more free-to-air networks don't take more sport on because the shows that they show on free-to-air TV are terrible, and you can get better shows on Netflix or another platform 100%. Like that. So live sport is where free-to-air TV can make up ground on, your Netflixes and Disneys and Stans or whatever.
So this was one of the things about, actually with the advent of Netflix that I always said, like, Netflix won't take over from Foxtel forever and prevent, because there was a whole thing. Netflix is going to shut down Foxtel. Netflix is going to shut down cable television. And I always thought it won't because of sport. I have to go to Foxtel to get my sport. Now, some of the other streaming services have sport, and if sports continue to diversify across all of these streaming platforms, it's not gonna make it less pirated. If I have to pay, I already pay for UFC Fight Pass, like me personally, UFC Fight Pass, KO, ESPN Plus, and for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu I pay for Flow Grappling or Flow Sports, right? So I pay 4 streaming service. If I had to pay for like Binge as well, blah, 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 then, of course I'm going to sit there and go, well, I'm just going to have to. I would never pirate. Piracy is illegal. But of course
You'd never do such a thing, John.
I'm going to look there and go like, how do I pirate, I wonder? How hard is it? But if it was on free to air, I would just watch it. And I would just watch all sport.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing like I discussed on Monday. On KO, I was switching between Saturday and Sunday. I was just watching so much sport. And there are people like us that will just watch sport. Get it more on free-to-air, NFL, NBA, and UFC.
And I give you an example recently, John. I mean, that last Ashes test where it went down to the wire, the series finished at 2-2. We're on like the last day of the Ashes, and Channel 9 are showing 60 minutes when they've got the Ashes on Gem, and they're showing 60 minutes instead of the Ashes. Like, really? Seriously? You reckon more people are going to watch 60 minutes than the last day of a thrilling Ashes series? Like, give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. More free-to-air, please. One Championship, because they're the competitor for UFC, are now on Channel 7 or something like that. One was traditionally actually hard to watch. It's in Singapore mainly, but it was traditionally hard to watch because you had to watch on YouTube, so people can't watch it on television. That was the thing. I know a lot of people who watch One FC and were watching on their computers. Last 2 weeks ago, when there was a one event, someone messaged me and sent me the YouTube link, and I replied and said, "I'm watching it on Channel 7," and they said it's on Channel 7, and they started watching it on Channel Channel 7, Channel 10. I think, yeah. So yeah, more free-to-air TV gets more eyes to your channel, and it is the way that free-to-air TV should go. No one wants to watch The Shawshank Redemption for the 700th time, but people will watch any sport.
Yeah, and with the US Open, John, I had to wait until the day to flick around the channels and work out that it's on the Channel 9 back channels. There was no promotion for that at all.
Well,
Promote it better. Tell us what channel it's on.
I was on the app yesterday trying to find which channel. I was like frantically.
Yeah, I mean, we know now it's on 9 on the back channels, but just tell us beforehand. Give a bit of promotion for it.
Didn't matter so much because the Novak match was delayed by 3 hours. So I had 3 hours to find it.
Yeah, time.
But I couldn't find it, and that's it. Like, more sport, more free to air. Forget this DMCA pay-per-view nonsense. I'm okay with occasional, like UFC has a pay-per-view every month. Boxing has some pay-per-views. The UFC fight nights are on ESPN or KO. If they were on free to air, a lot more people would watch them. So yes, that's about it for the week.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap, John.
Without AFL, there's not much to talk about. Cool guys. Hopefully, producer Little John will put on an outro now. So we'll see you guys on Monday.
Yep. See you then.